here this evening to hear some of the inspiring words and to see the fantastic networking that is going on and the learning opportunities that are being made available through Mosaic. Because I am very concerned about the underrepresentation of women and people from Black and minority ethnic communities and people who have disabilities and all of those underrepresented groups. And I'm worried about that in our politics and here in Parliament, but I'm also worried about that in business, among entrepreneurs, in the media, in all of the different walks of life. And so initiatives that can help and support people like you who will actually go there and shake things up and start your businesses and be successful in your businesses and make sure that in the future we don't see business, politics, the media or any of these fields as primarily dominated by white, middle-class, middle-aged men. I think that would be very positive indeed. We have challenging circumstances at the moment. While employment is at its highest level ever, we also know there are very many people who are finding it difficult to get a job. And we also know that there are very worrying statistics about the obstacles in particular that ethnic minority women are facing in the employment market. We know that they're twice as likely to be unemployed as their peers, no matter which age range you look at. And we hear stories of some removing their hijabs or changing their names to sound more British in order to try and improve the chances of getting a job. And a few years ago, DWP did some rather shocking research that showed when you put the same CVs forward with different sounding names, one name sounding foreign and one not, then there was a big discrepancy in how many interviews were achieved. Interestingly, I saw recently in The Guardian a similar study that had been done in America among science faculties, and whether or not your CV said Janet or John also had an impact on what salary you would be offered and how likely you would be to be offered a science fellowship. So even in the apparently rational world of science, there seems to be this unconscious bias that creeps in. And so that's why it's really important that this entrepreneurs network exists to be able to nurture the talent that's there and reach out and support people in what can be, as I think Deb was outlining, very challenging, difficult, scary first steps in starting a business. And we know that there are less than half as many women entrepreneurs as men. If we could get women setting up businesses at the same rate as men, we would have 150,000 extra startups every year. And the context of the challenge the UK economy is facing at the moment, just think about what that would do to help to deal with the problems that we're facing. And of course, not every startup is going to be successful. That is the nature of business. But you're not going to have business success without doing a startup. So we do need to make sure that we increase the numbers of people setting up businesses. I think the way that government can work to support that is really important. We have announced significant extra funding for mentoring programs. So that's tailored support that is there for budding entrepreneurs. So far, 15,000 volunteer mentors have been trained, and 4 in 10 of those are women. And more than 1 in 10 of those are from an ethnic minority background. So we have been trying to make sure that amongst those mentors, the diversity is also really apparent. That's a scheme that we are continuing to support with additional funding. And indeed, we're also particularly aiming funds at enterprise for women in rural areas, because we know, again, that is somewhere where there are significant additional challenges. We're also trying to knock down some of the barriers that exist, and those are varied. And some of those are about things like childcare, where people would like to set up a business, but getting that quality, affordable, flexible childcare can be difficult. And it's particularly an issue for entrepreneurs, where it may not be uniform hours that you're needing to work. So the nursery down the road might be helpful, but it might not actually be the solution that you need. So that's why we're making it easier for people to get into childminding, so that there's a range of different support services there, so that out of hours childcare is provided as well. But we also need to look not just at small business, but also at big business and at role models that are created. And we have, sadly, far too few women on the boards of top companies. But this is something which is very much a challenge the government's taken up through the Lord Davies review. And he has been driving this forward with FTSE 100 companies to show the benefits that a diverse board brings to business outputs and making sure that success is more possible. And in the last year, almost 4 in 10 of new directors appointed to boards in the FTSE 100 have been women. And from an overall base of 17%, that really does show that we are really ramping up the numbers of women appointed to boards. We're not complacent though, because overwhelmingly the new women being appointed are non-executive directors, which is important because it means we have those women's voices around the table, but we also need to keep the pressure up for those executive roles and ensure that women are being nurtured throughout that pipeline at every stage in every organisation, large and small. And that's one of the reasons why last year the government set up the Women's Business Council, which is under the fantastic chairmanship of Ruby McGregor-Smith, CEO, one of the few female CEOs of a FTSE 250 company, and alongside a range of inspiring and high-profile business women and a few businessmen. We haven't entirely ruled them out because they've got something to offer too. They have been looking at the barriers that women face at the early stages of their careers, starting out, then also getting on in the workplace, getting promoted, dealing with those challenges around when perhaps women are having a family, and then also at the older years in the workplace as well, where we also find that women can face discrimination and challenges. And we're very much looking forward to the report that they're bringing forward this coming summer, and the government will be taking that very seriously indeed. We know that there's more that needs to be done, particularly for ethnic minority women, because of those statistics that I said earlier, that we know that there are additional barriers faced and that there is more economic inactivity amongst ethnic minority women. And the government has commissioned research into some of those barriers, and we are discussing that across departments in government as to what action can be taken to build on the research work we've done and knock down some of those barriers, whether those are cultural, whether those are about advice, whether those are about childcare support as well. And we're hoping to be bringing forward those recommendations later in this year and reporting those back to the Deputy Prime Minister, Nick Clegg, who commissioned that research. I've also met with David Lammy, who many of you will know is the chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Race Equality, who have done a very good report also into this issue. So there's a lot more the government can do and will be doing, but I wholeheartedly support what Mosaic is doing, because that mutual support and advice and encouragement and giving each other confidence, I think, is hugely important, and I wish you very best of luck, and I'm happy to stay for a little while to answer any questions.